Hello again everyone, welcome back. On today's video I have for you my recent league start for the most recent league in Path of Exile, Mercenaries of Trathis. I opted to league start as a spell, a self-cast, with the newly buffed Elementalist, to experiment with all the buffs to self-cast and to the golems, and see the changes that I made to the Ascendancy. My spell of choice was Lightning Tendrils, where I opted to use the variant of Lightning Tendrils of Eccentricity. This allows our Lightning Tendrils to do a stronger pulse less frequently, but whenever they come, they become a lot more powerful. We use this in conjunction with a bunch of uniques to prop our crit strike multiplier very high without caring for our crit strike chance, and allows us to scale our damage very well. In defensives, we are converting nearly 100% of the physical damage the enemy is doing into an element, and then increasing our maximum resistance on both fire, lightning, and cold. We also have a decent amount of armor and very good block, and we're using an MOM setup to help buffer that a little bit. Our life pool is also 3k life, 3k yes as of the current video. This setup allowed me to go into the endgame and clear all the new bosses in story mode and after story mode in memory tears, and I'm now on the way to find Shaper, Elder, Maven and Cyrus to kill all of those as well. Keep in mind the footage that you are seeing and that I'm gonna show throughout the video is all on a 5 lane. If your league start didn't go as planned, or you're looking to try some of the new self-cast buffs or the newly buffed Elementalist, I highly recommend this build, and I had a blast while playing this. It feels tanky, it feels, even for a channel skill, it feels like it's very fast while clearing, because you have a lot of area of effect, and overall, I had a blast with this. If you're looking for a less common build to play as Elementalist, I cannot recommend this enough. And let's get into the build proper, shall we? Okay guys, so let's talk a little bit about the character as is right now. Currently we're on level 93. We have 3k life, about 3k when I go to my hideout and I have my golem buffs on. 3k life, 3k yes, and about 2.5k mana. There we go. And we are capped resist on all of them except chaos. And with our flasks, we have 82, 82, 83. We have 40% attack block, 70% spell block, and about 17k armor with our granite flask up. So let's talk a little bit about our character, starting with a passive tree. Passive tree is very simple. You start playing this as an elemental overload for leveling. You can level with lightning tendrils, either this or the basic version, very early on. It's one of the starting gems for Witch, the basic lightning tendrils, and that's what I leveled with. And from there, you just take spell damage, you take cast speed where you can, like here, and pad very early to mental rapidity, and crackling speed. And from there you get life, you get mana, and once you get a decent amount of mana, you can go into MOM. After that, you can take all of these lightning nodes up here, they're very good, and you only look to swap into crit about level 40 when you can equip the necklace that we have, which we'll talk about a bit in the gear section. After that, golem effect is very good, and it's just a matter of filling out the remaining nodes. You want spell damage, you want a little bit of reservation because we're reserving a bit of our mana. And arcane surge effect here, awesome, we love that. And just continue getting block, continue getting a bit of armor in the S, and divine shield is very good once you have a nice amount of armor. And that's it, a very simple passive tree. If you don't have an intuitive leap, this was about 30c. You just pat here and pat here. That's okay, you probably drop maybe this section of points until you can get that. But that's okay. And once you swap to crit, then you drop your elemental overload and you take Throat Seeker, You can go up here and take Arcane Potency as well. And if you have an extra Anoint, because you could potentially look into using Spore Guard with this build, which I'm going to be testing pretty soon. You can then anoint Earthseeker as well, or you can anoint Transfiguration of Mind, I think it is, which is right here. It doesn't appear on the passive tree, but it's probably your best anoint in the game. It does take a golden oil, so keep that in mind. For your Ascendancy, I've tested all of them except Bringer of Ruin. I don't think Carols are particularly effective with this build. And here's my input. You don't need Shaper of Shocks, you can get above 25% shocks. Fairly consistent. You can use Shaper of Winter, it's quite good. But I believe once you start converting a lot of the damage the enemy does from physical into an element, then Bastion of Elements becomes a lot more attractive than Shaper of Winter. Your first Ascendancy, no matter what, is going to be Liege of the Primordial. This is going to allow you to use a Flame Golem, a Lightning Golem, and a Stone Golem for leveling, all of which are phenomenal and give you so much damage, area of effect, regen, mana regen. It's just an amazing node, and Golems give you so much right now. You 100% start with this. From there, second Ascendancy, I would go with Mastermind of Discord. Exposure, still a lot of damage gained here. At least 20, or an extra 25 means with our Wave of Conviction, which naturally applies 15, means we're getting 40% exposure with this node. Then Shaper of Flames is new. You don't care about the Ignite, but the new line that says 40% of physical damage they deal converted to fire allows us to convert nearly 100% of the enemy physical damage into something with a conjunction of other items. And then finally, Bastion of Elements. Art of Destruction, Convergence is very good in terms of damage, of course, we all know that. It only applies on unique enemies, which is good for mercs, and it's good for endgame bosses. So if you're going to be doing a bunch of bosses, or you just want a little bit more single target damage, then I would recommend this. You can potentially drop Bastion of Elements for this, there's nothing wrong with that. And that would probably be the one I would drop if I were to go into Heart of Destruction. Or if you can get the jewels that allow you to have an extra Ascendancy, then Heart of Destruction is a good contender for that. So for our gear, let's start with the one unique that I think is mandatory for this. Marlene's Fallacy. This gives you Cull, this gives you a lot of global critical strike multi, and the less critical strike chance doesn't mean anything for us because we are playing for the Strong Pulse, and the Strong Pulse says it always crits, so we don't need any crit chance. This becomes available at level 40. Once you put this on, you can easily swap to crit. Until then, I would play Elemental Overload. I really wouldn't play this build without it. I don't think it has the damage without it to go into the endgame. Good thing is, if you're in trade, this is a 1C item, so you can easily get it. After that, we have Hate Shiver, Replica specifically, which gives us lightning damage as extra cold per 2% shock on the enemy. This is unfortunately evasion based, which I'd rather not, but is very very good, gives us a lot of damage, gives us decent resistances as well, and a lot of mana regen, which works very well for our MOM setup. Then we have Parashock Clasp, a not very popular belt, but allows us to convert up to 30% of the enemy's physical damage into an element, which we can then further mitigate with our flasks, which makes this incredibly valuable in terms of defense. The belt itself is not a very big contender for damage, so I absolutely love this belt on this build. We then have Aegis Aurora. As you can see, this allows us to scale our maximum cold resistance. It gives us recovery of energy shield based on our armor whenever we block, and overall just has a lot of ES and a lot of armor, so it's a very good shield. Those are the uniques that we're using. On the rings we have life, we have cast speed, if you can, mana, and resistance, and whatever stats you're missing. On the gloves, very basic pair, just armor and ES, mana, resistance, stats. That's it. On the boots, you want movement speed, of course, and then mana, life, resistance, stats. Our chest piece, this is a quite nice chest piece in terms of armor, and yes, gives us a lot. The suffixes themselves are not particularly impressive, but it still has an empty suffix, so I'll see what I can do with that. And finally, our wand is okay, could be a lot better. It has a little bit of spell damage, but then we have +1, we have good cast speed, good flat, and a little bit of mana. And we crafted crit, as you can see. For our flats, we have a topaz and a ruby. That's what we're converting physical damage to, so it makes sense. A movement skill, a movement flask, which should be crafted, not like mine. And then a granite. And that's pretty much it. For our skills now, as you can see, and all the footage that you have seen was on a 5 link. So we have lightning tendrils of eccentricity. This changes from the base lightning tendrils, where it has a stronger pulse every 5 rather than every 3, but those stronger pulses deal 500% more damage with hits and have 100% more area of effect. So we're playing heavily into those. We then use Infused Channeler. This was changed. It no longer requires you to channel for a duration to get the buff. Instead, it just, as long as you're channeling, you have these values added to your character. So you take 14% less damage, and you do nearly 30% more damage. Here, we have Controlled Destruction. We don't care about the negative of having less crit strike chance, right? As we said, we play for the Strong Pulse. The Strong Pulse is guaranteed crit. So this is just a more spell damage multiplier. Arcane Surge gives us a lot of cast speed, gives us mana regen, and gives us more spell damage while we have Arcane damage, or Arcane Surge. And finally, very simple, crit damage support for a lot of crit multi. For your last link, it will be one of these two. It's either Focus Channeling, which is not in POB yet, so I am not certain between them, but 60% more damage does sound like a lot. So it's definitely one of these. Trinity is by far your best support, but that does require you to be able to sustain it at 50 stacks consistently, and that requires further testing, because between the added that I have here and Achiever, I was not being able to consistently retain the 50 stacks, so I'll see if I can make this work a little bit better. If not, then Focus Channeling is absolutely the play. For the rest of our skills, here we have a Sigil of Power setup with Automation and Arcane Cloak for our defensive buff. We have Righteous Fire, Val specifically, for the extra 20% more spell damage. We have Archaeus Golem here, and we have Arctic Armor. We're standing still a lot, right? So this is just less physical damage and less fire, and since you're converting so much damage into fire, this adds a lot of value to Arctic Armor. After that, we have an Arcanist Brand with a Wave of Conviction for the exposure, and our Curse of Choice, Elemental Weakness, because we're using Achiever. We're doing 2 types of damage, Cold and Lightning, so this does have a lot more value than Conductivity on its own. And we also have our Lightning Golem here, which we got lucky and dropped a Corrupted one at level 21 with 20 quality, so that's nice. Here in the gloves we have Stone Golem, we have Flame Golem. They are both linked to Meat Shield, and we have Tempest Shield, which is the only thing we're reserving in our mana. And then we have an Arrogant setup with Clarity, which we are reserving in our life, as you can see, and our movement skill, Flame Dash, Frost Blink, whichever. And that's the gem setup. Now, we are not using an aura, because
hurry it up.
Our Merc is carrying our aura in this case. We have Wrath here, which is going to give us a lot of damage. And she actually does clear the map decently well, even if I don't do anything. All we gave her in rares is a better wand than she had, and this is not a particularly good wand. For uniques to give your Merc, Let's Start Your Kaom's Binding. This belt allows us to convert 25% of the enemy's physical damage into fire, as long as they're close to our Merc. So with this, we're converting, my current setup is converting 93% physical damage into an element. So very valuable, really, really good. Then we have leer cast, which just gives us 50% increased damage. Here we have perquil stow. This is very high value. It gives us, when we're close to our merc, will allow us to have lucky damage with hits, and primarily as a lightning damage build, this is very high value, because lightning, as we all know, is very volatile in its top end and lower end, so this will just give us a lot of damage. Lastly, Victario's Charity. There's a lot of different shields that you can give your merc. This one allows us to have frenzy charges, and even though it's only a 5% hit on a single target, she hits fast enough. She has a ton of faster casting and greater storm call overlaps and things like that. So it seems to me like it works very well even on single target. And you can reliably sit at 1 or 2 frenzy charges on a single target, which is amazing. Gives us a lot of cast speed, gives us a lot of value. And that's all the optimization we've done for our merc. Everything else is still as she came. None of them are particularly good, but yeah, very, very nice. Very, very nice. And that's pretty much everything for the build. If you have any questions, let me know. And that's it for me. Thank you so much. I'll catch you later.